Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Farhan, also known as Gunner since 96. Welcome back to the channel. Before I start, if you could all do me the biggest favor of liking the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and click that bell notification if you want to be notified whenever I release a video. We're back, and we're back off a very not so convincing win, but a win nonetheless. Arsenal 2, Newcastle 0. After extra time, we're now through to the fourth round of the FA Cup, and it is a massive relief. I was meant to say relief, not release. It's a massive relief to have gotten the result that we did. We definitely didn't deserve a 2-0 victory. 1-0 if that. Oh, I've forgotten to turn the fan off again. 1 minute. 2 seconds. Right, sorry, it's freezing cold in here, so I always forget to turn it off. Okay. Arsenal 2, Newcastle 0. Today I'm going to give you my post-match reaction of how I thought the performance was. Just my reaction of how certain players performed, how the team performed, whether we deserved the result or not. Some talking points on Mikel Arteta's press conference as well, post-match conference. And hopefully looking forward to the fourth round draw as well, which takes place on Monday. I think we've got a few more games today in the FA Cup. It's good to know that we are in the fourth round. Hopefully we get an easier tie than we did against Newcastle, which is embarrassing to say because Newcastle are one of the weaker sides in the Premier League right now, and we struggled to beat them. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see who we get in the fourth and fifth round, because the draw is going to show us who we will play in the fourth round and potentially in the fifth round as well, should we get through the fourth. So my overview of the performance was that the starting lineup was very different to the one that I anticipated. Not very different. The back four was okay, predicted. I would have preferred to have Maitland-Niles play on the right hand side. Leno in goal was a surprise, I have to say. I thought, Ronaldo would have been given another run out. Our midfield pairing was expected, but I did not expect to see Willian play, and I was very surprised to see him on the pitch. In fact, I completely forgot that he was playing for Arsenal because he had been out for so many games. So it was, if I had remembered him in yesterday's video, then maybe I would have put him in the team lineup ahead of Emile Smith-Rowe, because I don't want to see Smith-Rowe play so many games. But then again, I don't want to see Willian anywhere near the team sheet. And like I said yesterday, I want to see Smith-Rowe play as many games as possible. I want to see him being pushed so that his performance improves even more. He gets as many minutes under his belt as possible. As a young player, he needs it, and it's crucial for his development. So look, it was unfortunate that Willian started, and that reflected the whole sort of tempo of the game. I didn't expect Aubameyang to start up front, but it made sense as to why he did start. Very surprised not to see Balogun on the bench at least. Nketiah was on the bench, he didn't come on. If the result was, if we had taken the opportunities we had in that game and we were 2-0 up by, say, 60 minutes, I reckon Nketiah would have come on. Substitution would have been a lot different. I expected Martinelli to start, obviously the ankle injury, which is really worrying. So it looks like we're not going to be seeing him for a while. Hopefully, the injury isn't as bad as it looked. We'll find out more in the next couple of days. So Nelson starting on the left-hand side was a good call, and Pepe on the right was expected. So look, all in all, the team lineup was, fair. It was okay. But the performance reflected the performance that we have been seeing with this type of team starting in the league before the Chelsea game. I'm talking about Villa, I'm talking about Wolves, I'm talking about Leicester, I'm talking about Burnley. The types of performances that we have been seeing in those games was reflected in yesterday's games, and we were really lucky that we were playing a poor Newcastle side who were coming into this game with no win in 6, who were coming in without Callum Wilson, without Ryan Fraser. Yeah, they had Carroll up front, who, I think scored his first goal for Newcastle after returning last week. And it was a really, really poor side who were sort of defending for their lives. They had all men, 11 men at most times behind the ball, playing five at the back, really, really organised, structured defence. And yeah, I think we played a really, really poor game yesterday. And looking forward to the Palace game, I am a little bit worried if we replicate that type of performance, they're going to eat us alive. The likes of Eze and Zaha, McCarthy, Benteke, to some extent, they're going to be watching that game thinking, right, we got a chance here, boys, to cause some real trouble. Newcastle were never, ever in the game. They were playing a counter-attacking style of football. They were looking to hit us on the break. They were never sort of pushing or trying to get the upper hand. And I think Palace will be the complete opposite. They will want to push and they will want to apply pressure because they have the types of players to do that. And so, yeah, my general overview of the performance was that we played really, really poor. There were some individuals in that in that match that made us look really, really poor as well. And we'll come to the match talking points in a later on in the video. I want to move on to Arteta's press conference, his post-match press conference, in which he spoke about a few things, a few interesting things. It starts off by talking about Emile Smith-Rowe. I'm really, really happy to continually hear the praise that he's been getting, but also Arteta added that they want him to play in a more advanced attacking role. And that's really interesting because I think as a playmaker, he is perfecting his role week in, week out. He has done so well in breaking up opposition play, opening up the space, breaking down the other team's structure, especially the defensive line. He's just being a handful and he's acing that part of the game. So it's really interesting to see that Arteta is pushing him to play in a more attacking role, because I do see him as a player who has the ability to score goals. He has goals in him as well as, making the team look good. But I worry that if he's focusing on getting in those areas where we should be seeing the likes of Aubameyang and Lacazette, as strikers, they should be the ones getting in those areas. If he's focusing on that, I really hope that it doesn't derail the playmaking side of things. But he's 19 years old. He's got so much to learn. I think the more he learns, the more he adapts, the more he tries out different positions, the better he will get. So really, really excited to see that in the future. And I really, really hope that he does start in the Palace game. On Gabby, obviously, we know that Martinelli suffered a injury of some sort to his ankle during the build-up. We don't know how bad it is, but it did look bad. He was in quite a bit of pain, looked really distressed. Arteta said that, he was in tears. Didn't really look good, and he doesn't think it's going to be good news, but obviously the scans are yet to take place. We'll find out soon, but I really, 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 really hope that it's not another long-term injury. If it's a month, okay, fine, I can take that, but if it's another 6 to 9 months, that is going to absolutely kill me. The boy has shown so much potential, and I don't want this injury to stunt his growth. I don't want it to be a case of a Jack Wilshere where, shown so much potential, but just not able to unlock it because of injury. Very similar to Callum Chambers as well, someone who I highly rate. I rate him really, really highly because I think there is an absolutely amazing player in there, but because of his injuries, we're unable to see that sort of development. And again, I was quite surprised that he didn't start yesterday. I think he will be moved on, and I think he should be pushing for a move, because if a club like Arsenal doesn't want to start you week in, week out, you need to be asking yourselves questions as a young player. But hopefully Martinelli comes back strong. It seems worrying from what Arteta said, but again, like I said, we just have to wait and see what kind of news we get on him. Really, really good praise by Arteta to the young players. I think the young players once again carried us through that game and single-handedly got us that victory. It was not until Saka, Emile Smith-Rowe and Xhaka coming in, it was not until those changes where we started to develop our game a little bit, and the tempo of it certainly did change when Saka and Xhaka came on. But Arteta did mention something interesting, and he did say that, he doesn't want to put too much responsibility on these young players. We have to build it slowly, and that stresses for me the importance of making sure that the senior players show up. And what I saw yesterday in the first half was that the senior players just don't really look clued on. Half of them just don't know how to play football, which is really worrying. They can't string together passes. I mean, we were losing simple passes to the opposition. If it was any other side, we would have been punished like we have been all season. But it's worrying. I mean, as excited as I am as a fan to see these young players be nurtured, do these amazing things on the pitch, at any moment in time, that form could dip. And it's only inevitable because form is, and I understand the saying, form is temporary, class is permanent, but they are at the stage right now where they are developing. So there will be stages, there will be, parts of their development where, things will be a little bit slower than they are now. And so, I think Arteta was having a little dig at the senior players. We can't give them this much responsibility. The guys at the back, the senior guys, really need to up their game. And it stresses how important we need to start bringing in players and start shifting other players out. Because, you can tell right now that we've got 3 to 4 players that are carrying the squad. And that can't happen, really. As a football club like Arsenal, we need to have 11 good players who can play good football. Otherwise, mounting for a title challenge, winning championships and European titles, you can forget about it. But the most interesting comments that he made were on Willian, and I'm going to talk about Willian. In fact, we'll move on to Willian straight away as soon as I get off what Arteta had to say about him, because it was really quite infuriating to hear the number of excuses that Arteta was giving this guy. We're talking about someone who has been given chance after chance after chance after chance to prove himself that he's good enough to play week in, week out, that he's good enough to even be on the bench. He's failed to do that. Yesterday, Arteta put him in a position where he could not hide, where frankly, this was an opportunity for you to be at the centre stage. There was no way that you are going to hide behind anyone else as a number 10. You had to make that role the focal point of the game, and the sort of style of football that we play, the number 10 glues everyone together, especially in the attacking front. And I noticed after the first 10 minutes, he was doing stuff that I just couldn't believe. Hiding, in the middle of 3 to 4 Newcastle shirts, just not getting involved in the game. And I asked myself, I started asking myself, is he doing this on purpose? Because I don't see any other excuse. I don't see any other explanation for a player to be isolating himself away from the game when when you're next to the ball, when you should be trying to receive the ball. You've put yourself in and around 4 to 5 Newcastle players. And I couldn't believe what I was watching. It was almost like Piggy in the middle. There was Willian there in the middle, and around him were 3 to 4 Newcastle shirts. It was incredible. I'll go on to what Arteta had to say. The first comments that he made was he's been improving lately, especially when he came on against West Brom. West Brom, he grew into the game. There was nothing significant to say that he made an impact or he did X, Y, and Z, which helped Arsenal to progress goal opportunities. I mean, even in this game, there were the crosses that he put in from the corners were pretty decent. But when we're talking about play whilst in possession, absolutely poor. I can't remember another Arsenal player as poor as Willian. And to the fact that he has failed in a number of different positions, I think he's played in all 3 positions, right wing, left wing, and in the middle as a number 10. And he's done nothing apart from the Fulham game where he got those 2 assists. It's just been downhill. And I'm not sure what's happened. But Arteta seems to think that because he's coming back from the COVID illness, the quarantine, because this is his first game since coming back, he's gonna be rusty inevitably, and it's gonna take him some time to get back into the flow of things. I think Arteta is pulling out as many excuses as possible because he doesn't have a choice. He doesn't have much of a choice but to play Willian in that position, because the other options are either Emile Smith-Rowe, you continue playing him week in, week out, or you play Ceballos there. I'm not sure why Ceballos didn't start today. I was quite surprised. I would have expected to have seen Ceballos there. So actually, he doesn't have any excuse because you're playing someone who is so low on confidence. He can't. What looks like to me, he's purposely trying to isolate himself away from the game. So nothing really makes sense about why they're pushing Willian. And I think, what I see is a manager who is so desperate for Willian to start performing that he will play him for as long as possible to see the smallest of glimpses of chances being created or a shot or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. Arteta ends by saying we know what type of player he is and it's only a matter of time before we see it. So that alone just shows me that what Arteta is going to do is just going to continue playing this guy until he comes out of his shell, until he does something. What a waste of time. What a waste of opportunities for other players to try and break into the team. It's just really disappointing because I thought, Arteta would have learnt his lesson by now. And I really hope this doesn't come back to bite us back on the backside. It's just worrying. It's really worrying because the way that I saw it, and we'll move on to the performances, to the key talking points. The way that I saw it yesterday, there were two players. In fact, there were three players that were stopping the football from being played in a fluid manner and continuing that run of form from the West Brom game, and that was Willian, Joe Willock, and Aubameyang. I'm going to talk about Aubameyang in a minute. I'm going to talk about and this is going to get a little bit philosophical, a little bit tactical, but I really do want to discuss this point. I spoke about this in the podcast yesterday, by the way, which is out, the Arsenal Therapy podcast. You can listen to it on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Quick little plug there. But yeah, so the main three weak links for me were Willock, Willian, and Aubameyang. Willock was incredibly poor. I haven't seen him this poor ever in an Arsenal shirt. I think Willock's time is done, if I'm honest. I think Arsenal have made the mistake in pushing him too far, too quickly into the senior team and transitioning him from that youth role into the senior role. And I feel for him because you can tell that he's trying, but unfortunately his development was ruined because Arsenal fans were, I wouldn't blame it on the fans, but whoever made the decision to push him into that senior role made that mistake because and it goes back to why it's so important to be careful with young players and to just not overwhelm them, because this is what can happen. Willock had a poor game. Everything he was doing wasn't working, couldn't string passes together, losing the ball, the touches were wrong, just everything. Nelson had a really poor game as well, but I don't think he cost us the breakup of play. I don't think he stopped the flow of the attacking football that we were trying to play. Obviously, as the central midfielder, Willock's responsibility is to progress the ball forward. Sometimes I almost, lost sight of where he was trying to play, almost too deep sometimes, and pushing out onto the wide as well in some instances of the game. And then he played really well. Strung together some good passes, good vision in that game, and again Willian was just non-existent, and the same for Aubameyang. And this brings me on to Auba's role as a striker. Where do I start on this? Let's talk about Aubameyang himself. Let's talk about what his strengths and weaknesses are. We know that Aubameyang is a world-class striker. He's elite. He is absolutely top of the top when it comes to striking a ball, putting it in the back of the net, running off the ball when it's being fed to you. He's absolutely brilliant to run in behind the defense. And yeah, his main traits are his finishing. That's his trademark, the way that he finishes. So my question is to you guys, and you can comment below and you can tell me what you think about this. What is the role of a lone striker? Because the formation that we were playing in yesterday was a 4-2-3-1, where the central midfielder's responsibilities were to feed the ball forward, to try and feed it to the wingers or the attacking midfielder. The attacking midfielder's responsibility was to play with the striker so that they can link up and open up the defense. The wingers were responsible for running down the wings and obviously crossing the ball into the box. And the lone striker, and this is my opinion, I believe that if you're playing as a lone striker in that type of formation, your responsibility is to disrupt the defensive formation of the opposition. And the reason why Newcastle looked so solid and looked so organised is because Aubameyang was allowing them to do that. And we realised instantly the moment that Lacazette came on what a lone striker should be doing in that position. I believe that working off the ball is more important than working on the ball, because when Arsenal have possession as a striker, you need to make sure that you're causing havoc in that back line to break up the system, to try and break down their wall. They're playing 5 at the back, so I really expected Aubameyang to do a little bit more than to just stick to his man, walking around and just waiting for opportunities to happen. But when you're playing as a striker in that role, as a number 9, you really need to be I don't want to make the misconception that he needs to be more active and just run around. That role, that number 9 role, is one of the most important, pivotal, crucial roles in the system that we were playing, because you rely on that position to disrupt the back line and to open up play, bring players in, create the spaces. And we saw that the first goal that Lacazette scored, you notice that when the ball is being played to from I forgot who it was from, I think it was Saka to Emile Smith-Rowe, Lacazette makes a little, almost just moves a few steps forward, brings his defender out of play, and then a space appears for Emile Smith-Rowe to run in. And if you pause the minute that Emile Smith-Rowe gets the ball, you can see that all of a sudden Newcastle's back 5 straight organised tight line is broken because of a few steps, of a little bit of movement by Lacazette. He does it so well. He creates that space to get in behind. And we struggled to do that all game. We made them look so good and solid because the role of our striker was not being fulfilled to its fullest potential. And you can't wait and expect the ball to be crossed in. And I realised even in those instances when the ball was being crossed in, Aubameyang was not doing enough. The timing on the run was all wrong, and it raises questions of what on earth is actually going on on the training pitch, because these are the types of patterns of play, these are the types of link-up plays that you need to perfect on the training ground. As a striker, you need to know when to run in, and your wingers need to know when you're going to make that run in order for them to cross it in. It's basic drills. And it was so unfortunate to see that it just wasn't being fulfilled. There were instances in the game where he was playing well, where he was chasing the ball around. When they had possession, he was chasing the ball around. But when we had the possession, the movement off the ball when you're in possession, I think it separates the real world-class players to the average players. And I think his movement off the ball is just so average that if you're playing against a championship side or a League 1, League 2 side who have the fundamentals in place, playing in blocks of 4, keeping a tight straight line, moving together, moving backwards together. If you're organised at the back and you have a striker like that who's not willing to disrupt that formation, it's going to be very, very difficult to score a goal. That's my thoughts on the role as a lone striker, as a number 9 playing up front by himself. I don't know what you guys think, but I think Aubameyang, if he's going to be successful in that role, he needs to adapt his play off the ball. And Lacazette showed us yesterday why he deserves to be played up front. That's what I think. I'm going to leave it there. I think we've been waffling on for long enough. We move on to Crystal Palace, of course, in I think 4 days' time. It's going to be a really, really tough game. We're going to need to be at our best. We're going to need to continue the performance from West Brom. We're going to have to leave this performance at the back of our heads. And I really, really hope that the team lineup is very, very different to the one that we saw. Saka, Emile Smith-Rowe, Tierney, Xhaka, Lacazette all need to start, in my opinion. Okay, I'll leave it there. If you enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you very much for watching once again. Thank you very much for all the continued support. Please subscribe to the video if you, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Hit the bell notification as well so that you're notified every time we release a video. And I'll see you tomorrow. Stay safe.